Buenos nachos, amigos. Welcome to another fine episode of Record Breakers. I am Petey Rave, your man with the eye of a tiger. Here with me, of course, is my quorum of reviewers and yahoos. We got none other than Drew.
Hey.
We got Brett.
Yabba dabba doo.
And we got Patrick.
Hello again.
We are gathered once again to talk about music, and we're going to have an interesting album this week brought to you by none other than Patrick. Patrick, what album are we discussing this week?
So, there was a period of my life where I was really into Swedish death metal, and I still kind of am some days, and of that genre, I have kind of a favorite band and a favorite album, and that's what this is. Opeth and their 8th album, Ghost Reveries. The way I look at it, it's kind of the best of them still being a death metal band, and kind of as they've grown, they got more and more prog rock about it, and this is, I think, the right balance of the two.
I'd say I had some interesting expectations of this album, but let's see. Drew, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Well, Petey, I was told it was going to be death metal, so my expectations were chugging distorted guitars, loud screaming vocals, and me pretty much not be a fan of the loud screaming vocals. Those were my expectations. It's back on now.
And Brett, what would be your expectations?
I can't see without my glasses, so I never listened to any Opeth other than through the two bedroom doors in my apartment in 2004 when I was going to school at Wyotech in Pennsylvania. But I was aware of like their shtick and the fact that they were beloved in the subgenre. But I had no clue how proggy they were.
So it's definitely an interesting album. You know, I expected a very sludgy death metal album, but we'll see what we got. Patrick, what did we get?
Okay, so the thing that makes Opeth my favorite Swedish death metal band is that they are a Swedish progressive death metal band. Basically, what they did is Michael Åkerfeldt, the guitarist, singer, and sort of creative force behind the band, writes pretty much everything. He grew up listening to the roots of death metal with bands like Venom and the like, and thrash metal and everything. But he also listened to prog rock, like 70s prog rock, like the one he always references is the band Camel, who were an English progressive rock band, who I've listened to a little bit of, probably not enough. And in the early to mid 90s, about 94, 95, more so, they're from Stockholm, more so in the Gothenburg area, there was this whole sort of the creation of sort of the first wave of what we consider modern death metal. And it was In Flames, Dark Tranquillity, and At the Gates were sort of the biggies. And Opeth kind of formed off in Stockholm doing their own thing, starting out with sort of the traditional, Swedish melodic death metal sound with guitars that were like always harmonized and stuff, and then they kind of grew out of that and sort of progged it up for a while. And this is the albums before this, they did kind of a paired album thing where they had a straight prog record and a straight death metal record, and it was kind of fun. And then this was combining those two things together, and I feel like, to me, it was their last really exceptional album. And not that they've done bad stuff since, but, every band, I think, hits a high at some point, and this was their high. The other thing that I think, for me, at least, being a drummer, is the drummer who played on this record, Martin Lopez, was Opeth's drummer through most of their first, 8 or 9 years. And he, unlike most of the rest of the death metal community of drummers, isn't just a guy who runs on the kicks. He has jazz backbeats constantly and plays weird fills that you wouldn't expect in a death metal environment. And this album was sort of the last one he did with them, and the last time we got to hear that in death metal, because even their new drummer, who's fantastically talented and, you know, better than most of that whole, you know, crowd, is not Martin Lopez. And this was sort of, you know, his last album with them. He left the band due to health reasons, among other things. And I don't know, that sort of, to me, it's way more progressive than any of the other bands in the genre ever got. And that's kind of what I always really liked about them.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting progressive sound that I did not see coming. Drew, what were the themes and elements that stood out for you?
Well, I went into this not knowing the more prog metal roots of the band. I went into it knowing death metal. So, as I said, I've kind of grown out of the screaming vocals. So, when I first fired up this record, I was listening to it and I was like, oh god, here we go. It's gonna lose me. Until 1 minute and 15 seconds, I actually marked the timestamp on the song itself. 1 minute and 15 seconds, the actual vocal comes in. And I praise God that it wasn't going to be all screaming. And then that's when the rest of the album sort of opened up for me very quickly, obviously. It takes a lot for me to really go, damn, that drummer. Like, I listen to a lot of jazz. The drummers are really, really good. So it's like, it takes a really fantastic drummer, in my opinion, to really perk my ears up and go, whoa, like, that was kind of crazy. This drummer very much does that for me. The guitar work was intricate. They had some really great, like, fast chugging, headbanging parts, and they had some really good melodic, slow parts. They had, like, there was a song in there, we'll get to it in a bit, that ran the whole gamut completely pitch perfect for me. I ended up really enjoying this record a lot more than I thought I was going to, because of that, because it wasn't all screaming. I can dig the screaming when it's used in parts. When it's the whole album, I can't. This used it in parts really, really well, and I really, really enjoyed that for it.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what would be the themes and elements that stood out for you?
Well, to add more to Drew's sentiment, you can't take lyrics or vocalization seriously when it's unintelligible. It's just kind of hard. Luckily, this was not completely unintelligible, but lyrics and vocals aside, I was pretty impressed with the instrumentation. They had some really, really, really good use of a mellotron. Go Google it. But there's, but yeah, anytime somebody, I mean, we've had like several albums that had really good mellotron in it for such an oddball, weird instrument that's made out of a bunch of like cassette tapes that you play with a keyboard. It's
This Week in Mellotron.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of a funky instrument to add the ambience, but you know, I mean, I was pretty shocked at how little god awful noise came out of a guy's mouth, and how much they actually, you know, put effort into the vocals.
Mm-hmm. Definitely some fascinating vocals, some good singing, some good vocalizations, and some good tracks on there. Patrick, what would be the key tracks to key in on? What would be some of your favorite tracks, and what are some of the tracks that embody this album?
So I'm gonna take from Drew and go with the opening track on the record, "Ghost of Perdition." So basically, there's two Michael Ackerfelds as a vocalist. There is "Scream the Paint Off the Walls," and there is some of the most spectacular singing you've ever heard on a prog record, in my totally probably wrong opinion, but I love the guy's voice. And "Ghost of Perdition," you get a minute 15 opening it up, screaming the paint off the walls, and it's not like this. It's very much the Swedish sound, sort of lower, more guttural thing, and then it kind of calms for a second, and you have him singing, and the guy sings really well. I like his voice. It's a thing. And I also think this album, that song, really, if you want to define this era of Opeth, sort of the middle half a dozen records, like their first 2 records, like I said, pure death metal, and they kind of, the prog came later. This is sort of what they sound like, is really, really heavy to sort of brings it down, develops something, and then brings back the heavy later. Also, I just love Ghost of Perdition. I just think it's a spectacular song. I've seen it live a couple of times. They play it this cleanly live, which blows my mind because lots of metal bands cannot play their shit live, and these guys could.
Drew, what would be some of like the key tracks that stood out for you?
The opening track, as I said, lost me within the first 30 seconds and regained me at 1 minute and 15. It is a really strong song. Knowing that now, knowing what I know now, from the beginning it's a very strong song. They decide to hit you in the face right at the beginning of the record and then like let you go back into what I found to be more of what they were aiming for this record, which I really, really like. Hours of Wealth, the sort of softer metal ballad, I can really, really enjoy that on like a prog metal sort of album. I really, really enjoyed that sort of stuff. I say really, really a lot is what I'm realizing.
Really, 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 really.
Yes, I'm the American Patrick Beja, leave me alone. But also Beneath the Mire, was the one I really thought of. It hit a lot of the points in the heavy headbanging part in the beginning, and then it sort of dipped down into this like slower melodic part, and then went back up. It was really, really cool. At 8 minutes long, it like took like 4 or 5 different tonal shifts, which I thought was really, really cool. Really, really cool. But those were the ones that stood out for me, were those 3. They sort of encompassed what this album really was, which was hitting you with a lot of different musical points very well. Almost said really well. Said very.
Almost. Brett, what would be some of the tracks for you that you were keying on?
There's one. I was a little more hit or miss. A lot of this is hard for me to grasp a hold of and put into memory. The one song that stood out by having, the best, the most memorable earwormy, if there's even a song that has one of those in this album, is the Bang of Hounds, which had a more popular music sounding progression that's sort of stuck, and it was heavy but not fart chug and bass kick, but it was probably the shining star on this album for Brett.
I would agree. I like that song as well.
Yeah, Ghost of Perdition. Those are some fantastic tracks, some fantastically long, epic tracks, which is really cool, and always nice to explore and kind of let wash over you really well. I think they just kind of let you kind of, yeah, like I said, wash over you in metal progression funness. I think let's go back around the horn to kind of get some conclusive thoughts. Drew, what would be your thoughts conclusively about the album as a whole?
On the whole, this album was really, really fantastic. This is, there are going to be songs off of this that are going to enter my, like, metal playlists, very, very easily. It really showcased, in my opinion, something the metal does really well, which is very, very intricate guitar work, and the drums being, I don't know how to put this, like, intricate while sounding not as intricate as you think. Like, if you clue into the drums and you really listen to them, you're like, okay, that fill was kind of crazy. Like, or that beat was really weird to put there, but it works really, really well. But if you're listening to it on
kind
this,
of like a basketball player who's deceptively fast, I guess you would say.
yes, yeah, the drummer's got them handles. Is I guess what I'm saying.
But more of this, yeah, it's really deceptively intricate. You would
Yes.
say. But yeah, Brett, what would be your thoughts on the album overall?
I went in trying to be as open as I could, not be I wasn't going to shit on this before I listened to it. And I can't really shit on it. It's that what they were doing, they went out and they accomplished it. It is definitely a metal prog thing that sort of is its own genre in itself. It's definitely not the White Stripes only good. It's definitely not. It's not Glassjaw. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I probably will never. I'm afraid that like every time I listen to an album that I'm like meh about, like Google now starts telling me all about everything about that band, and my phone has already started telling me all about Opeth because I actually did my homework. But go listen to it. I mean, I probably wasn't in the right place at the right time when this thing happened. And it doesn't like stroke the little things in music that Brett likes. It doesn't tickle my brain in the right way, but I get what they're doing. And they used an actual real Mellotron, like not a fake Mellotron. Like
Everybody, let's thank Stephen Wilson for showing Michael Ackerfeld the Mellotron, please.
yeah, it's like an actual real Mellotron, like cost like back when they were being produced, like a Mark III or Mark IV, cost more than a car. So I mean, they're kind of an impressive instrument.
Yeah, definitely. Patrick, what would be your thoughts on the album as a whole?
If you like prog rock and you're okay with screamed vocals, you will probably like this a lot because it puts the progressive in progressive death metal. I think this is for Opeth. I think this is their best work, and not to discount the stuff that came before it or after it. This was the right amount of metal and prog at the same time because they've gone more proggy since, and they were more, heavily on the metal side before. If you play drums, listen to this record for Martin Lopez alone, and you won't be disappointed. The guy gives you a clinic on how to be different than everyone else in your genre and better than all of them because of it. Not to knock any of those guys, tons of talented people. They just none of them ever tried what he did on an album. Not that they couldn't do it, but he actually did it. He's just like, I'm gonna put jazz backbeats here. I'm gonna play crazy fills, and it worked. I love this album. I'm kind of impressed Brett didn't shit on it because I bring stuff that Brett doesn't like, and that's it's the game of the show, I guess.
Well, you just said Crazy Phil. I had a guy that I grew up around who we called Crazy Phil. Like Crazy Phil was a staple of Peru, Indiana, circa 2003. So
Yes.
I'm gonna be thinking of Crazy Phils all the time.
Crazy
There's more than one of them.
Phils. There you
And
go.
sort of a side note, if you like prog rock but you don't like screamed vocals, their previous album to this, Damnation, is a straight-up prog record. No screamed vocals, mostly non-distorted guitars, and it's kind of fantastic. So,
Or you
check
could go
out
back
that.
about 3 or 4 episodes ago and listen to 2112.
yeah, you should listen to 2112. I think that is
it's also got questionable vocals for some people.
yeah,
But
controversial, shall we say?
But to those people,
But it's also got a moose
go
knuckle.
kill yourself. Like, I don't know.
Yep.
They're a lot
It's
more
also got the moose.
upbeat and happy.
And a lot more moose knuckle.
Oh yes, and Man Kimono.
Way more moose knuckle.
Man Kimono and
I've
Moose
seen
Knuckle.
Opeth 3 times. There is no moose knuckle in the band. They
It's
don't.
really it's a glaring flaw, and they need to address
Yeah,
that.
that
Yes,
would have
I
made
will-
things for me. If their
I
album
will
had them-
reach out to Michael Ackerfeld and tell him, Michael, what you really need is spandex pants.
No, you
Exactly.
need to have a kimono and bad lighting, a white kimono with moose knuckle, and a horrible like future space mullet, and Brett Hibbard will buy your album. Like for one guy, one more customer.
Exactly.
I'm going to make a special edition of the New Mulligans album with just me in space mullet and our drummer in spandex pants. Like, I will make that happen.
Nice. That is
And somebody
A very,
in
very
Zubaz has to
special
do
Mulligan's
jump splits.
record.
Yeah, Zubaz and jump splits. Gotta
Yes.
do it somewhere.
Might as well
Exactly.
jump.
Of course, now we get to our main event of the evening. We get to our haiku reviews. What we've all been waiting for. And, enough of our dumb thoughts about the music. Let's get to the haikus. Let's start with Drew. Drew, what is your haiku review?
Intricate guitar and a lovely backing beat. Singing outweighs screams.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what is your haiku?
Less growl than assumed. Better instrumentation. Still not my thing.
Mm-hmm. My haiku is: you get to listen to some Swedish metal dudes play really good tunes. Just straight and simple. And of course, Patrick, what is your haiku?
Sweden is home of all of the best death metal, especially this.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right. So, of course, you can listen to this and play along at home with our playlists. Right now, we're on Beats Music and Spotify. I'll try to provide the links on our social media and on our website as well. But go and follow those playlists, and we will try to curate them as diligently as possible as we can. And let us know where else we can curate a playlist. On those playlists, presumably, is going to be the next album, which is going to be provided by Brett. Brett, what do you have for us next week?
I wish I had a way of dropping the mic. Judas Priest screaming for vengeance.
Pretend mic drop. Yes. We look forward to that discussion next week. But of course, follow along the playlist. Check them out. You can find us all over the internet. Patrick is at the Swagger. Brett is at Hibbity Baybird, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at X. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Stitcher, iTunes, subscribe, like, share. Spread the word. Let people know what we're doing over here. Give us reviews and stuff. But until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo. Thank you for the clap. Thank you for the clap.